The stadium lights glowed like a sea of tiny stars, as more than 60,000 people took their seats, their voices blending into a loud, excited hum that filled the cool night air. It was one of those evenings when everything felt magical even before anything had begun. Families, friends, and fans from all around the world had gathered for the concert, each person carrying a different story about how Michael Jackson's music had touched their life. Young people who had grown up watching his dance moves, older fans who had followed him from the beginning, and children who were there for their very first concert. All of them waited with bright, eager faces. The huge stage stood at the far end of the stadium, shining in soft blue lights. Its screen displayed slow-moving clouds, making it look like the stage itself was floating in the sky. Technicians ran around making last-minute adjustments. Musicians checked their instruments. Backup dancers stretched quietly in the shadows. Everyone felt the same mixture of tension and excitement, because they all knew they were moments away from something unforgettable. The loudspeakers played soft music to keep the audience calm, but nothing could stop the growing energy in the air. Every few minutes, someone would shout, "Michael!" and the whole crowd would cheer in return. It was as if the entire stadium had one giant heartbeat, beating faster and faster with expectation. Behind the stage, Michael Jackson stood quietly with his hands folded in front of him. He was dressed in a simple, elegant outfit, nothing too flashy for this part of the show. Tonight, he wanted the world to hear his heart more than his sparkle. The song he was about to perform, Human Nature, was not just another track on his list. It was a piece of his spirit, a soft reminder of how he saw the world and how he hoped the world could see him. People around him moved quickly, checking microphones, adjusting lighting instructions, or preparing cues. But Michael himself remained very still. He closed his eyes for a moment, breathing slowly. He wasn't nervous. He had performed in front of large crowds since childhood, but he always felt a gentle weight before singing a song that came from a deeper place inside him. He hoped that tonight, the audience would not only hear him but feel him. A stage manager stepped forward. 2 minutes, Michael," he said softly. Michael opened his eyes and smiled politely. "Thank you," he replied, his voice calm and warm. As the countdown began, the stadium lights dimmed. The crowd reacted immediately. A wave of cheers rose from every direction, like a storm of excitement, finally breaking free. Glow sticks lit up. Flashlights from phones sparkled like fireflies. People stood from their seats, ready for the moment they came for. A soft, slow melody began to play. The entire stadium grew silent. It was surprising how quiet 60,000 people could become when anticipation was this strong. The opening chords of Human Nature floated across the air like a gentle breeze. The screens on the stage changed from clouds to a soft golden glow, creating an atmosphere that felt peaceful and dreamlike. A spotlight appeared at the back of the stage. A slim figure stepped into it. The crowd screamed. Michael walked slowly toward the front, each step steady and graceful. He looked calm, yet there was something fragile in the way he carried himself, as if he was letting the audience see a softer, more personal side of him tonight. His eyes scanned the crowd, not with pride, but with kindness. It was clear that he was not there to impress, he was there to connect. He reached the center of the stage and gently lifted the microphone. His hand trembled just slightly, not from fear but from the weight of emotion inside him. The music softened. The entire stadium seemed to hold its breath. Then, in a voice as smooth as warm honey, Michael sang the first line. It drifted over the crowd like a quiet whisper of truth. The softness in his tone made people lean forward, ready to catch every note. Michael didn't push his voice tonight. He let it float naturally, full of warmth and meaning. With each word, he seemed to be telling a story, one that he had carried inside him for years. People in the audience felt a shift. They had come to hear the world's greatest entertainer, but what they received was something far deeper. They saw a man who wanted to share a part of himself that was rarely visible beneath the bright lights and global fame. His voice held a hint of nostalgia, longing, and tenderness, and the audience felt it all. The band supported him softly, as if they too understood that this was not a moment to overwhelm but to gently accompany him. The guitarist added quiet notes that sounded like falling drops of water. The drummer kept a slow, steady rhythm. The keyboard player created a soft cloud of sound beneath his voice, lifting it gently. Michael closed his eyes as he reached the second verse. When he did, it was like he left the physical world for a moment and stepped into a place inside himself. He sang with both strength and vulnerability, a combination that very few performers could deliver. His face softened, and his body swayed gently, following the music like a leaf following the wind. In the crowd, people watched him with awe. Some recorded the moment on their phones, but most simply stood still, not wanting to miss even a second. Couples held hands. Friends placed arms around each other's shoulders. Parents lifted their children so they could see. Even those who had come simply for excitement found themselves unexpectedly moved. As Michael continued singing, he took small steps across the stage, reaching out his hand toward the audience. It was not a dramatic gesture, just a simple, human one. It made the audience feel like he was not far above them but right there among them. He smiled gently, acknowledging faces he could not see clearly but could feel with his heart. The golden lights above him softened further, dimming almost to candlelight. The stadium felt less like a huge arena and more like a quiet room where a friend was sharing something personal. The music wrapped around everyone, like a warm blanket. Michael's voice grew a little stronger as he reached the middle of the song. His emotions became more visible. His chest lifted with deep breaths. His eyes glistened in the light. For a moment, he looked like someone who had been carrying many feelings for a long time and was finally letting them out through the melody. He lifted the microphone with both hands now, as if holding it close made him feel grounded. His voice trembled not with fear, but with sincerity. The notes stretched softly, and the audience felt each one, like ripples across a calm lake. Everywhere in the stadium, people felt connected to him in a way they rarely experienced in concerts. Nothing loud or dramatic was happening, yet the moment felt larger than life. It was peaceful, heartfelt, and almost healing. Michael continued, letting the words float gracefully through the air. The song wasn't just music anymore. It was a conversation between him and the world. A quiet reminder that beneath all the fame, he was a human being with hopes, feelings, and dreams. And in that moment, the entire crowd listened with open hearts. The soft melody of human nature continued to float through the stadium, creating an atmosphere so peaceful that even the smallest sound felt loud. Michael stood at the center of the stage, bathed in gentle golden lights that made him look almost weightless. His voice carried a warmth that touched people deeply, and the crowd listened with stillness and admiration. Every eye was fixed on him, every heart open, every mind quiet. Then, something unexpected happened. From somewhere near the front rows, a sudden voice broke the silence. It came through sharply and quickly, surprising everyone. It wasn't loud compared to the thousands of people around, but it cut through the quiet moment like a sudden cold breeze. Most people couldn't even tell where it came from, only that it was close enough for Michael to hear it clearly. For a moment, the music might as well have stopped, even though the instruments were still quietly playing. Michael's voice softened as he reached the end of a line. He looked toward the area where the sound had come from. His expression not angry, not upset, just surprised. His eyes moved slowly across the faces near the front, trying to understand what had happened. The audience near that area turned their heads too, confused and unsure of how to react. The band noticed something was off. The guitarist looked up from his strings. The drummer's hands paused slightly above the drums. Even the backup singers leaned forward, sensing a shift in the atmosphere. They didn't stop playing, but their movements became softer, ready for anything. Michael stayed still. For a few seconds, the stadium seemed frozen. 60,000 people who had been happily singing along now held their breath, waiting. The unexpected sound had broken the dreamlike calm of the moment, and everyone could feel a quiet tension rising. Not because anything bad had happened, but because the moment had been so delicate, so gentle, that even a whisper could disturb it. Michael took a slow, steady breath. He blinked once, then twice, as if choosing his response carefully. His hands lowered from the microphone a little, and he looked toward the audience with a calm, thoughtful gaze. He did not react quickly. He did not rush. He just stood there in the soft light, his face full of kindness. The crowd noticed this instantly. Instead of being shaken, he looked more reflective than anything else, like someone who had heard something surprising but chose to meet it with understanding rather than discomfort. In the front rows, people began whispering to each other, trying to understand what had happened. Some looked around to see who might have spoken. Others simply watched Michael, worried that the moment had been broken. But Michael didn't seem upset. He simply looked thoughtful, as if he was listening to something deeper than the sound itself. Slowly, he took one small step forward. The lights dimmed slightly, as if the stage itself sensed the change. The golden glow softened into a calm white, highlighting Michael's gentle expression. The band lowered their volume even more, turning the music into a soft background hum, allowing space for the moment to unfold. Michael tilted his head a little, as if considering something important. His eyes softened, and the audience could see a touch of emotion in them. Not sadness, not frustration, but something more delicate. It was the emotion of someone who had spent a lifetime learning to remain gentle, even in moments that felt unsteady. His fingers lightly brushed the microphone, and he breathed out slowly. Even from far up in the stadium seats, people could see the kindness in his expression. He didn't look offended. He didn't look disheartened. He looked like someone ready to respond with his heart instead of his pride. The silence in the stadium grew even deeper, almost like the air itself was waiting to see what would happen next. A few fans near the front instinctively called out words of support. "We love you, Michael." But the sound was quickly hushed by others who didn't want to interrupt the delicate moment. It wasn't fear. It was respect. People didn't want to speak over him or drown out what he might say next. Michael lifted the microphone slowly. The way he moved was gentle, almost graceful, as if he wanted the moment to stay soft. He brought the microphone close to his mouth but didn't speak yet. Instead, he looked across the crowd, his eyes warm and thoughtful. From the very top of the stadium to the people standing right at the edge of the stage, everyone waited silently. The night felt calm again, but with a different kind of energy. Now, an emotional, curious one. It was rare to see such stillness in a crowd of so many people. Michael glanced toward his band. They gave him a small nod, giving him space and time, ready to follow whatever direction he chose. For several moments, he simply looked at the faces in front of him. Thousands of people, all different, all unique, all connected through music. The unexpected interruption had created an emotional pause, one that felt almost like a hidden doorway opening, inviting something deeper to be shared. Michael closed his eyes for just a second, gathering his thoughts. When he opened them again, there was a softness in them that seemed to grow brighter in the light. It was as if he had made a decision to respond in a way that would transform the entire moment, rather than let it fall apart. He raised his hand gently toward the band. The musicians understood his signal at once, and slowly softened their playing until the music faded into a soft, fading echo. The guitarist lifted his fingers from the strings. The drummer let the last note ring gently in the air. The keyboard player lowered the volume until only a gentle hum remained. Now the stadium was almost completely quiet. Michael stood still in the spotlight, the gentle glow outlining his silhouette. His white outfit shimmered softly, reflecting the lights like gentle moonlight. The only sound was the breeze brushing lightly across the open-air stadium. He looked over the crowd once more, his voice quiet but steady as he finally spoke, not singing, not performing, but simply talking from the heart. What made the moment extraordinary was not what had been said earlier, but how Michael chose to respond with grace, with calmness, and with a deep understanding that touched everyone who watched him. Even without speaking yet, the entire crowd felt something shift. It was as if the stadium itself took a deep breath and exhaled slowly, settling into a softer, more meaningful silence. People forgot the interruption. They forgot the tension. They focused only on him, on his gentleness, on his calm presence, on the feeling that something meaningful was about to happen. Michael held the microphone gently, his fingers relaxed, his shoulders soft. There was no anger in him, no irritation, only sincerity. The moment stretched, not in an uncomfortable way, but in a way that made people feel like they were standing on the edge of something beautiful, a moment that would stay with them long after the concert ended. What happened next would soon become one of the most unforgettable moments of the night. And the silence before it made the moment even more powerful. The stadium was covered in a soft silence, the kind that rarely happened in such a huge place. A moment earlier, Michael had been singing a peaceful part of human nature, and now he stood completely still on the stage, the microphone gently held in his hands. The lights above him glowed softly, like a halo of warm white surrounding him. 60,000 people waited in complete quiet, unsure of what he would say or do. Even the breeze that moved across the open stadium felt gentle, as if it didn't want to interrupt the moment. Michael looked down for a few seconds, thinking. His eyelashes cast small shadows on his cheeks. He looked calm, gentle, and thoughtful. There was no sign of anger, no sign of distress, only a quiet softness that made the audience place all their attention on him. Then he looked up, eyes warm and bright. He lifted one hand slightly toward the band, a small gesture, but clear enough. They slowly let the last notes of the song fade until the music disappeared completely. It was as if the entire concert paused itself at Michael's request. Now he stood alone in the spotlight, with 60,000 people looking at him, waiting. He took a slow breath. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft, almost like a whisper, but it reached every corner of the stadium because the silence was that deep. For a long time, he began gently. I have learned something about life. His words floated out warmly, like someone sharing a personal memory instead of speaking on a stage. The crowd leaned closer without moving. It was a strange and beautiful sight. Tens of thousands of people standing together in perfect stillness. Even people in the farthest seats could feel the sincerity in his voice. Michael shifted his weight slightly, holding the microphone with both hands now, as if it helped him stay grounded. His shoulders relaxed, and for a moment, he looked less like a global star and more like a person simply talking from the heart. Ever since I was young, he continued softly, people have said many things about me. Sometimes, without even knowing me. A soft wave of sympathy moved through the crowd. They could hear the honesty in his tone. Quiet, careful, but real. He smiled a small, gentle smile that reached his eyes. But you know, he said, I realized something important. He paused, allowing the quiet to settle again. The stadium lights dimmed further, leaving only the gentle spotlight around him. The darkness made the moment feel even more intimate, as if the world outside had disappeared. What others call you does not decide who you are, Michael said, his voice warm and steady. A soft murmur of agreement spread through the crowd. Some people nodded. Some wiped their eyes. Others simply watched with full attention. Michael continued, people may misunderstand you, or judge you, or give you names that don't match your heart. But what truly matters, he said with gentle emphasis, is what you carry inside, what you choose to give to the world. His words were comforting, full of kindness, and full of wisdom. The stadium felt lighter with each sentence he spoke, as if the heaviness created by the earlier interruption had melted away completely. Michael's expression turned thoughtful again. Every person here, he said, looking around slowly, has something special inside them, something that makes them unique, something that should be honored. The camera screens showed his face close up, and people could clearly see the sincerity in his eyes. He wasn't performing right now. He wasn't entertaining. He was simply sharing himself. He took another breath, slow and graceful, allowing his words to settle into the hearts of everyone watching. There were times, he admitted softly, when words from others made me feel small. Times when I wondered why people said things that were hurtful or unkind. He paused, his gaze gentle but steady. But then I realized something beautiful. He lifted his hand slightly, almost like he was reaching out to the crowd. I realized that the world always needs kindness more than anything else. Kindness can change everything. Kindness can change a moment, a day, even a whole life. The crowd felt a warmth spreading through them. Many people placed a hand on their chest. Others held the hands of loved ones. Some closed their eyes, taking in each word carefully. Michael continued, "So even when someone says something that doesn't feel good, you can answer with your heart. You can answer with gentleness. Because your heart is where your true self lives." His voice grew slightly stronger, not loud, but more confident. "And nothing," he added softly, "can take that away from you." The stadium remained silent, but the silence was filled with emotion. It wasn't empty. It was full, warm, comforting. Michael looked toward the night sky for a moment. The stars twinkled faintly above the stadium lights. "Sometimes," he said, "the world can forget that every person is a human being with feelings, dreams, hopes." He looked back at the crowd, his eyes shining in the spotlight. "But I want you to remember something." He stepped forward gently, as if closing the distance between himself and the audience. "You are worthy," he said softly. The words were simple, but powerful. They echoed through the stadium in a way no loud message ever could. People felt seen, felt understood. Many people's eyes filled with tears. Michael offered a small, grateful smile. "When you share your goodness, your kindness, your love, that is the real you, not the labels others give you." He held the microphone close to his heart. "And tonight," he said gently, "I want every person here to hold on to the truth that you are beautiful, just the way you are." A soft wave of warmth passed through the stadium. People were already emotional, but now the feeling deepened even more. It was not sadness. It was connection. Michael bowed his head for a moment, thinking quietly, then added in a calm voice, "Sometimes the world needs reminders. Sometimes hearts need a little encouragement. And sometimes we just need someone to say we matter." He lifted his head and smiled again, a soft, peaceful smile. "And you all matter to me." The crowd exhaled together, as if a soft pressure had lifted from the entire stadium at once. The moment felt healing, pure, comforting. Michael continued, "I try to give love through my music, through my performances. But moments like this, these moments remind me that love goes both ways." He looked around again, taking in the faces, the lights, the soft glow of thousands of people who had come for joy but were now receiving something deeper. "And tonight," he finished gently, "I feel your love." The crowd couldn't stay silent any longer. A soft wave of applause rose, not loud or wild, but emotional and warm, like a hug shared by thousands. Michael waited calmly, letting the applause settle before he lifted the microphone again. "Shall we continue?" he asked softly with a slight smile. The stadium answered with a gentle cheer, full of warmth and admiration. Michael nodded to the band, ready to return to the music. But everyone knew the moment that had just happened would stay in their hearts forever. It was no longer just a concert. It had become a memory, one filled with understanding, kindness, and the gentle strength of a person choosing grace over everything else. The soft applause settled slowly, like waves returning quietly to the shore. Michael stood in the center of the stage, feeling the warmth and support that poured toward him from every corner of the massive stadium. It was as if the hearts of 60,000 people had opened at once, filling the night air with a comforting glow. He held the microphone close, and his eyes softened again, touched by the kindness he saw in the audience. He knew he could return to the song at any moment. But he also felt that something meaningful still needed to be shared before the music continued. It wasn't planned. It wasn't rehearsed. Yet it felt right, like the natural next step in the quiet, emotional journey unfolding between him and everyone watching. Michael took one slow step forward. The stage lights adjusted gently, wrapping him in a glow that was soft and tender, almost like moonlight. The air felt peaceful, as if the stadium itself was holding its breath in anticipation. He lifted the microphone again. "When I was younger," he began softly, "I used to wonder why people sometimes said things that did not feel kind. I didn't understand it. The cynics." The crowd listened closely. "But over time," he continued, "I learned that when someone says something unkind, it often comes from a place inside them that needs healing." There was something thoughtful, almost soothing, in the way he spoke. It made the audience feel calmer, more reflective. Michael smiled gently. "So instead of holding on to those words, I learned to hold on to love instead." His voice grew warmer, more heartfelt. "Because love is stronger. Love lasts longer. Love reaches farther." People in the front rows nodded, touched by the calm wisdom in his tone. He looked across the audience slowly, making sure everyone could feel included in his words. "And I want everyone here to remember something," he said, his voice gentle but clear. "Being different is not something to be ashamed of. It's something to be proud of." Numb. A soft murmur of agreement moved through the crowd. Some people clapped quietly. Others touched their hearts. Michael's expression brightened slightly. There was a small sparkle in his eyes, one that appeared whenever he felt deeply connected to the moment. "If someone ever calls you a name," he continued softly, "don't let it sit in your heart. Let it pass, like a cloud, passing in the sky." He moved his hand slowly through the air, showing the motion of a cloud drifting gently away. "What stays," he continued, "should always be the truth of who you are." The screens around the stadium zoomed in on his gentle smile. It was a smile that carried kindness, wisdom, and a lifetime of understanding. Michael placed one hand over his heart. "What lives here," he said quietly, "is what matters the most." The stadium was silent again, completely still, completely focused. He paused for a moment, looking up as if searching for the right words. The night sky sparkled faintly above, giving the moment a magical feeling. Then he lowered his gaze, meeting the crowd again. "If being yourself makes you different, then that difference is your light," he said softly. "And the world needs your light." A gentle gasp moved through the audience. Some people wiped their eyes. Others smiled through tears. It was rare to hear something so honest, so healing, in a setting so large. Michael took a breath, as if gathering all his emotions into one simple truth. "So if someone calls me different," he said with a peaceful smile, "I take it as a reminder that I should keep shining." The audience reacted instantly, not loudly, not wildly, but with a warm, emotional cheer that felt like thousands of gentle voices rising as one. It wasn't the kind of cheer that filled the air with noise. It was the kind that filled hearts, instead. Michael nodded slowly, accepting the love with gratitude. "And my wish," he continued softly, "is that every child watching, and every person here tonight, remembers that who you are inside is your gift. Don't hide it. Don't change it for anyone." He placed a hand on his chest again, his gesture full of sincerity. "Let your light shine," he whispered. A wave of emotion spread through the stadium. Some people hugged their friends. Some parents looked down at their children with loving eyes. Some fans simply stared at Michael with admiration and appreciation. It felt as if his words had reached deep places inside many hearts, places that perhaps needed those words more than they realized. Michael's eyes glistened softly. He lifted the microphone again. "You are beautiful," he said quietly. "You are important. You matter." The words were simple, but they carried incredible weight. They felt like a blanket of comfort, wrapping around every person in the stadium. "And if someone ever forgets your worth," he continued, "don't let their words become your mirror." He let the silence breathe for a moment, letting the message settle. "You define your worth," he said gently, "with your kindness, with your heart, with the love you give." A soft melody began to play in the background as the band prepared to rejoin the moment. It was a gentle instrumental, almost like a soft, musical hug, adding emotion without overpowering his words. Michael smiled, hearing the music fade back into the air. "Sometimes," he said softly, "life gives us these moments. Moments when we can choose love instead of confusion, hope instead of hurt, calm instead of worry." He looked around the stadium with a peaceful expression. "And tonight," he said, "I choose love. For all of you." The audience erupted again, not wildly, but with heartfelt applause that felt warm and genuine. It wasn't noise, it was gratitude. Michael took a small step back, giving space for the music to grow. He lifted the microphone once more and whispered with a soft smile, "I think the world could use more love and more understanding." The music swelled gently behind him, lifting the moment even higher. "And that," he said, his voice filled with emotion, "is human nature." The crowd reacted instantly, some with tears, some with cheers, some simply placing their hands over their hearts. His gentle reply had touched them deeply. People felt as if they were part of something bigger than a concert, something meaningful, something healing. The band began playing the familiar melody again, and Michael prepared to continue the song. But this time, everything felt different. The atmosphere was fuller, warmer, more connected. As he began to sing once more, his voice carried a renewed strength, not loud or forceful, but beautifully confident, like someone who had embraced the moment fully and transformed it with grace. And in that moment, 60,000 people listened to him not just as a performer, but as a person gentle, wise, and full of heart. The music rose gently once again as Michael returned to the melody of human nature. Something had changed in the air, something deep and warm. The audience felt it immediately. His earlier words had touched their hearts so softly, yet so powerfully, that even the music now felt different, almost brighter. It was as if the song carried new meaning, shaped by the moment they all shared. Michael's voice glided over the notes with a soft strength. Every word he sang felt like a gentle reminder of the message he had just shared about kindness, about staying true to oneself, about letting one's inner light shine. The audience listened with renewed attention, their hearts fuller and calmer than before. As he reached the chorus, thousands of phone lights lit up across the stadium, sparkling like stars scattered across the night. It was a breathtaking sight. For a moment, it looked as if the sky had come down and filled the stadium with its own glow. People swayed gently, moved not by loudness or excitement, but by calm joy. Michael smiled as he looked out at the glowing lights. His eyes softened with warmth. It wasn't the size of the crowd that touched him, it was the unity, the peacefulness, the love that floated through the air like a warm breeze. He felt as though the entire stadium had become a single heart, beating gently to the rhythm of his song. When the final notes of human nature drifted into silence, the band let the last chord linger softly before fading away. The stadium burst into applause loud enough to fill the sky, yet still carrying the gentle emotional energy that had grown throughout the night. It wasn't just cheering. It was appreciation, gratitude, connection. Michael bowed his head slightly, placing a hand over his heart again. For a few moments, he stood quietly, taking in the faces, the lights, the emotion. It was rare for a moment so simple to feel so big. It felt like something that would stay in the hearts of everyone present for a long time. As the applause softened, he stepped toward the microphone again, this time with a calm and grateful smile. "Thank you," he said gently. The words were simple, but they carried warmth. "Tonight has been very special." The crowd responded with a soft cheer that rolled across the stadium like a long, warm wave. Michael looked around slowly, as if wanting to memorize every corner of the moment. "Sometimes," he continued softly, "music brings us together in ways we don't expect. And tonight, that happened." He let out a small breath, filled with gratitude. "Your kindness, your hearts, the light you shared. I felt all of it." From the audience, some people placed their hands over their hearts. Others nodded, as if telling him silently, "We felt you too." Michael continued, "I'm grateful for moments when we can understand each other, not through loudness or noise, but through simple truth." He paused, smiling softly. "And tonight, you showed me so much love." The applause rose again, warm and heartfelt. He lifted his hand slightly, signaling for a gentle quiet. "What happened earlier," he said kindly, "was just a small moment. But what you gave afterward, the love, the unity, the understanding, made the moment beautiful." The crowd listened with tender attention. Michael smiled again, bright and peaceful. "You turned it into something positive, and that is what makes nights like this unforgettable." People in the audience nodded. Some wiped their eyes quietly. Others held hands with the people next to them. The moment felt like a soft, shared memory being created right before them. Michael stepped back slightly, looking around as if taking one last slow look at everything: the glowing lights, the smiling faces, the peaceful night sky above. "When I look at all of you," he said gently, "I see hope." A soft sound of appreciation moved through the crowd. "I see people who came together with an open heart and left with even more love inside them," he continued, his voice steady and warm. "And I truly believe this world becomes a kinder place each time we choose understanding." Those words touched the audience deeply. Many people felt a comfort they hadn't expected to feel at a concert. Michael continued with a thoughtful expression. "Tonight, you showed what happens when kindness leads the moment. You showed how hearts can connect, even in quiet times." The crowd remained silent, listening to him as if his words were small gifts being handed out gently. "And for me," he added softly, "that is the greatest ending to a song I could ever ask for." The band members smiled quietly behind him. They felt it too, the specialness of the night, the rare beauty of such a soft and emotional connection between a performer and the audience. Michael took one step back from the microphone and looked across the stadium once more. The screens showed his face glowing with appreciation, his smile warm and full. The audience cheered again, but not loudly, more like a gentle embrace made of sound. He lifted both hands in a warm gesture of thanks. "You all made tonight magical," he said with soft happiness. People clapped with gentle passion, touched by his honesty. He looked toward the stars above the stadium, and then back at the crowd. His smile grew a little wider. "This moment will stay in my heart." A soft, emotional cheer rose. He added, "And I hope it stays in yours too." The stadium lit up once more with phone lights as the audience quietly promised him the memory would stay. The band began to play a slow, peaceful closing melody. Not a song, just soft music to accompany the moment. Michael let the tune wrap gently around the stadium, creating a peaceful ending. He walked slowly across the front of the stage, waving to people, smiling warmly, making sure everyone felt seen. Fans waved back, some with tears in their eyes, some with glowing smiles on their faces. As he reached the center of the stage again, he placed his hand over his heart one last time. "Good night," he said softly, And thank you for your beautiful hearts." The crowd responded with one long, gentle cheer that rose like the sound of a warm breeze sweeping across the night. Michael stepped back as the lights dimmed, leaving the soft glow of the stage behind him. The night sky sparkled overhead. The stadium lights slowly began to fade, but the warmth of the moment remained, like a soft light inside every person present. People stayed in their seats for a few minutes, not wanting the moment to end. They weren't in a hurry to leave. They talked quietly to each other, shared smiles, hugged their loved ones, and wiped tears of joy. The memory had become part of them. And for many, the moment Michael paused the song, shared his heart, and turned a simple interruption into a message of kindness, would remain the most unforgettable part of the night. It wasn't just a concert anymore. It was a reminder of the gentle power of kindness. A reminder of the beauty of staying true to oneself. A reminder that even in unexpected moments, love can rise and shine brighter than ever.